I'm doing I'm doing some stuff for my tribe. What an appropriate time to do a sesh, sesh for your can of education. She discussed her experience with edibles, and she had some advice for people trying edibles for the first time. A lot of the same advice that you often hear, but there was another piece of advice that I don't particularly agree with. But your method of delivery is your business. I'm just here for guidance, and a lot of us mistake guidance for doctrine. You know, use your common sense, collect all the information and education, and use your common sense. So anyway, so one of the things she said was, she said her mistakes were, as people's mistakes often are, when you're given an edible item, you just, because it tastes like what it was cooked to be, people, particularly a novice, will tend to treat that edible like the food that it was created to emulate, right? And eat it in portions that you normally would. Well, I think for obvious reasons at this point in semi half-ass legalization, most people know that when you're fucking with edibles, go slow and low. That's the basic rule. Another thing that this particular elevator advises, when asked what she would tell people, one of the things was that she said she would tell them to never use an edible and go to bed. She said don't never do that. And I've heard that before on a number of occasions, and I've heard it before for other reasons. The reason why she said is because she was restless. She said she felt like she was high overnight. You know, she was elevated. She was what we like to call ramping up. She was ramping up and coming down, ramping up and coming down. It seemed like in her sleep all night. So she didn't feel like she was able to be fully rested. But let me tell you, don't you take everybody's advice and run with it, mine included. Don't you take everybody's advice and run with it, because there are countless people who not only use edibles and go to bed, but they use edibles in order to go to bed. So, you know, there are a couple of, and in fact, I have had other elevators who, in fact, mostly benefit from using it for that reason, and I have a couple who only use it for that. So yeah, this I won't say nonsense. This recommendation about never using edibles and sleeping on them, that's a dud from where I stand. No shade on her. No shade to her, because she's still learning. And so and I celebrate her getting her on, diving in and really getting her own experience with the gamut of information that's out there. So yeah, definitely know your dose, and she knows more. She knows more than I do in terms of percentages. What's THC versus CBD, and that information is I won't say vital. That information is important. For you to have a guide for what you're looking for, but I'm saying it's not vital, because it's not information that I use. And the reason why I don't use that information is because of my um, ancestral education on the matter. Ancestral education, common sense, and personal experience, the combination of which who has educated me to the fact that although these stats are great for guidance, to set the stage, because you can't, because when you're just diving in, you need some sort of outline, right? So it's great for that, kind of like the hair typing system. Okay, the typing system is trash. It's divisive, it's racist, and it's trash. But there are people who are not fully conscious, for whom it is an ideal blueprint by which to get started on their personal natural hair journey, right? I don't need that shit. I don't fuck with it. I see straight through it from the jump. However, there are some people that are, everybody's consciousness is at different level. And there are some people for whom that is ideal for, at the very least, getting started on that journey, right? So same thing with the percentage of CBD versus THC ratios and the potency percentages and whatnot. I don't know much about those. I'm not gonna be the prophet that leads you in that direction. Okay. But I have a lot to share. The goddess in me has a lot to share. Cause I'm an introvert. I ain't fucking with nobody. But the goddess in me has a lot to share for people who can relate to me. How about that? So yeah, when you're experiencing edibles, don't take for granted that the dosage is what you would assume it to be based on whatever it is you're eating. And another common piece of advice that people always give is to wait. Be patient. Be patient. And nobody gives you a time frame, but I'm going to give you a time frame because some people say it hits them in 15 minutes. I don't believe it. I don't believe it works that fast. But that's not fair for me not to believe that, because that's my whole point in not believing these ratio systems, is because everybody's body and mind, because it's a combination of the two, your body and mind, and how it responds to whatever you're using at the time. So and even more significantly than that, this is going in another direction. But years ago, I was very blessed to be when I dove in as a novice, I was blessed to be able to shadow a grower, and I also know that a grower's cure process, harvesting and cure process, and time frame and time lapse and cure process can have everything to do with the potential potency and tendencies of said potent and tendencies of the ratios of cannabinoids within said strain. But anyway, yeah, so I don't like to just say know your dose, because you don't know your dose. You do, but you don't. So I don't like to say know your dose just starting out, so much as I say work your way up to whatever your dose is, then know your dose. And when you're working with edibles, don't exceed that dose unless you're doing so deliberately to treat a particular issue.